Hey, what is up guys? So I got two decks for you guys that are brand new in action, and I'll give you guys a brief little deck profile as well. But anyways, the first one that we're showing off is the new Timelords mixed in with trains. I know a lot of you guys really like the rank 10 train deck, and it just kind of got out power crept by some of the meta, but who knows, now you guys will be able to bust out a big robot, which can be pretty good. The big robot being the Super Dimensional Robot Galaxy Destroyer. You can bust them out much easier in a rank 10 deck. Now with the new Timelord support, because the new Timelord support lets you just special summon a Timelord with 0 attack from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So you're able to get a pretty beefy field, especially because some of the best monsters are rank 10s. I guess technically this is rank 12, but you exceed on top of another one just to make this card. But just being able to just get a free level 10 monster is definitely something that can make trains a lot better. In addition to that, his opponent is playing the mythic or phantasmal dragons. I don't know what we're calling it in the TCG, but the phantasmal spiral dragons, formerly known as the mythic radiant dragons, in action over here. But he also has this ability, if this card battled, you get to shuffle one card your opponent controls into the deck. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to see that in action because of skill drain, but it's just showing you guys how good this deck can still be just by being able to get some effects in the graveyard, because one of them actually just lets you draw a card, which, was it already, I think it was this one over here, is the, oh, if I could go over it. We'll go over it more in depth once I get into the deck profile for these, but he just has the effect where he gets to let you draw a card. Now, his opponent over here, he's got the Megalo Smasher X. That's actually a newer card as well. But he's got the Spiral, the Mythic Radiance Dragon. He's going to actually bust out another one. And he's got a top deck out of here. And he top decks the Kaiju Slumber. Wow, get sacked. I thought that it was super in Teriyaki's favor. But then he actually got rid of his field. But then Teriyaki top decks. So it was a reversal comeback. The guy came back and then interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Pretty balanced card. I like how they put that card at 2, as if that really changes a lot of things. But anyways, that was the new Timelord trains in action. Basically, it's just an extra card for you guys to go for some rank 10 plays. But the Wind Witch Roids, pretty interesting mix-up over here, facing off against the Dark Lords, a archetype that did get some new support. This is like new decks all in one. But anyways, we see Diaberry going to be chaining itself to the destruction of Twin Twisters. Really, really unbalanced card. A lot of people want this card headed off the ban list. But anyways, the card that I think is really strange that I didn't even know existed is Vehicroid Connection Zone. So you go to fusion summon a Vehicroid fusion, and then that monster has immunity to being destroyed by spells, traps, and effect monsters, and its effects cannot be negated. So that's a pretty strong effect, especially if any other cards come out for the Vehicroids. We just got one new card, really is what it comes down to, but that one new card, it's got 5,000 defense, and it can't be destroyed if you special summon it via the Vehicroid Connection Zone. But anyways, we see the Predator Plant Engine in action over here. Just getting out the Bike Roid over here just so we can use it as a target. Get instant fusion. And this card, guys, this card is so dang annoying. He's got multiple of them on board right now. He's got double Dark Holes. One of them was special summon with the Vehicroid Connection Zone. And like I mentioned before, it makes it immune to destruction effects. And its effects cannot be negated. But he has the ability to actually brain control his opponent's monster until the end phase, and then he's going to go ahead and be able to make a board still, even though he lost his mobile base just for one turn. But we see the Dark Lords falling from grace to get rid of Crystal Wing. Crystal Wing is still a very good card. But anyways, I think this can work out because what I didn't even realize is the Roids actually can be speed Roids. You don't actually have to go for the Vehicroids, which pretty much like the Express, where like no one playing these. But this card actually has a pretty good effect. You can target up to 2 of them and bring them back to your hand. That's not a bad effect. So he's going to go ahead and attack, and he's going to go ahead and during the end phase, this card actually lets you bounce back a monster, and that effect cannot be negated because it was special summon with the effect of Vehicroid Connection Zone. So he's able to attack with that small monster and then bring it back to his hand so his opponent cannot get rid of it and obviously make a game because he only has 100 life points left. But anyways, he's going to go ahead and activate the Altar of the Dark Lords, bringing back some of his Dark Lords. Then he's going to go ahead and make Felgran. He's going to try to negate the effect. But again, remember, the effects cannot be negated. So that is really strong. And he has the ability to target a face-up monster his opponent controls and summon a Roid with less attack than or equal to that monster's attack, which pretty much let you get almost whatever you want if there's a relatively large monster, because most of the Roids, as far as I know, have really low stats anyways, unless of course we get a new support in the future. But look how annoying this card is to deal with. Like, most decks, if they don't have like a Kaiju relatively quick, they're just gonna kind of lose to this guy. He's going to go ahead and then activate Return to the Front Line. So he's going to bring out another monster. He's going to go ahead and bust out the Ichchezel over here. Or Ichchel? I guess they changed the thing. But he's able to take his opponent's monster and then make the rank 10 Door a really, really strong card. But wow, those are some pretty cool replays. I know some of you guys might be interested in building the decks, so I'm going to give you guys the deck profiles for the ones built over here. So let's go ahead and go to Deck Edit. Maybe you guys can mess around with this. But at the moment, guys, there's only one new card for the Vehicroids, but I feel like they should be getting more support. Like, to fusion summon to make this card, you require one Roid fusion monster, so you have to make one of these things. And then on top of that, you have to have a Roid monster. So its summoning conditions aren't that difficult, especially when you use Vehicroid Connection Zone, because you can just go for it, and then it has the ability to protect the card that you bring out. And this card already has 5,000 defense, so Utopia, where you at? Like, you're not going to be able to get over this, unless we're talking about, like, the, what is it, Zexal Weapons Utopia, which could get a lot of attack, but for the most part, that phased out a long time ago. But anyways, Mobile Base is a pretty good card. But anyways, the Wind Witches actually are pretty decent because they have the ability to make it so you can special summon and bring a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And on top of that, the Speed Roid engine works really well with the Wind Witches because everything is wind anyways. So I think it works relatively well to mix them together. But anyways, let's get started with the deck profile for the mobile base deck. So this, starting off, we got 2 copies of the Wind Witch Glass Bell, 2 copies of Express Roid, 3 copies of the Prayer Plant Scorpio, 3 copies of Terratop, 2 copies of Darling Cobra, 3 copies of Gyroid. Again, these Roids, they'll probably be replaced when the new support comes out, but this is what we got right now, boys. Anyways, 3 copies of Ice Bell, 2 copies of Tekkenton Borg, 2 copies of Red-Eyed Dice, 2 copies of Snowbelt, 3 Instant Fusion. You gotta bust out those bicycles, man. And then we got 3 copies of the Vehicroid Connection Zone to actually let you bust out this card. Then we got 1 day at Stall. We got the Upstart Goblin, 2 copies of Speed Recovery, 2 copies of Reckless Speed, 2 Deep Barrier, and 2 Solemn Strike. As far as the extract goes, you're probably not going to be busting out most of the things. I mean, to get 5 machine-type Roid monsters, that's a little bit of a task. But it can attack twice. It can't attack directly, though. But if it attacks an opponent's monster, you get to negate the effects of that monster, including in the graveyard. So actually, it's a pretty good effect. And then if this card destroys an opponent's monster by blood, you get to inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So this card is actually not that bad, but it's just a little bit difficult to pull off right now. Again, in the future, when Roids get like the rest of their support, I could see this card being very powerful if there's an easier way to like bust this card out. Anyways, next up we got 3 copies of Mobile Base. This is basically what everyone's trying out. Although, again, right now, we just don't have the Roid stuff. But you guys saw it. The card is good, though, for sure. But anyways, like I said, you get to target a face-up monster your opponent controls and special summon a Roid monster from your deck or extra deck with attack less than or equal to that monster's attack. So you could potentially bust out some of the like other cards, but yeah, I mean 4,000. If your opponent has a 4,000, I'm pretty sure your opponent had probably already gamed you. But nonetheless, it's still a very strong card. And then once per turn during the end phase, you get to actually bounce back a Roid monster. And so that could be really good. And then next up, we have the Stealth Union over here. So it requires Truck Roid, Express Roid, Drill Roid, and Stealth Roid. But again, you're going to be bringing it out with this. Unless, again, if this other support makes this better. But anyways, when it attacks, its original attack is halved until the end of the damage step. And then it does also do piercing damage. And then once per turn during your main phase, you can select 1 face-up monster on the field except for a machine-type monster and equip it. So basically, he can actually snatch, steal some cards. And he can attack... what is it? You can select 1 face-up monster on the field except for a machine-type monster and equip it to this card. And then while equipped by this effect, this card can attack all monsters your opponents control once each. But it already halves its attack. But again, absorbing things is still pretty good. And next up, we have the Jumbo Drill. So this has the effect where it does piercing. I don't think it's very good. But again, some of the obscure attacks might be useful. And then we have, of course, the best MVP card, the Parapsych Roid, and then 2 copies of Crystal Wing, 1 copy of Clear Wing Fast Dragon, 2 copies of Winter Bell, and then 1 copy of High Speed Chain Bar, maybe to finish off your opponent. But anyways, next up, I did want to showcase off both decks. So we got the Timelords over here. This is the rank 10 Timelord deck. So basically, it's a rank 10 deck, but it's got a little bit more of a utility here. Even though his opponent had skill drain, you guys saw it in action. It was pretty good. But it's pretty standard for like the train archetype. But anyways, 3 copies of Knight Express Knight, 3 copies of Heavy Freight Train Duracrane. We got 2 copies of Medion, 2 copies of Lazion, 2 copies of Zafion, 1 copy of Sadion. So they all have different effects. Oh, we can't forget our guy, come on. So I'll sum it up real quick what they do. It's like if you control no monsters, you can normal summon without attributing. It can't be destroyed by card effects, and then you take no battle damage from attacks involving that card. That's pretty much all of the Time Lord. So I won't go over that effect when we go over all of them. But anyways, this card, they each have different effects. So the Fire one has an effect where if this card battles, you shuffle all cards in your opponent's graveyard into the deck, and then if your opponent draws a card, you get to burn them for 1,000. So you can maybe, if your opponent is really low, you can just game them with this card. And then we have Zafion. So this has the effect where if it battles, you get to shuffle all spell and trap cards your opponent controls into the deck. And then the Wind one over here makes it so if this card battling your life points is less than 4,000, your life points becomes 4,000. So he kind of can heal you up. And then Kamion over here lets you shuffle 1 card your opponent controls into the deck. And then most of them again have the same effect where like once per turn during your standby phase you shuffle it. So pretty much, like I said, we didn't really go over those effects on each one, but they all have that effect where you have to shuffle it back. But anyways, next up we got the Kaijus over here, the level 10 ones. We got the Star Destroying Kaiju, 2 copies of him, and we got 2 copies of Gameciel. And then 3 copies of the Time Maiden, which really just helps out the rank 10 plays in this deck. So you're able to if you control the monsters, you can special summon it from your hand. It can be considered 2 tributes for a tribute summon of a Time Lord monster, but you can tribute this card to add 1 Time Lord monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, and then you get to banish it from the graveyard to special summon a Time Lord, ignoring its summoning conditions. It says you can't special summon other monsters during the turn you activate this effect, but yeah, still really good for the rank 10 plays, because obviously the Time Lords, it doesn't negate their effects. It just makes it so you cannot special summon other monsters. But it's still pretty good, as you guys just saw. Even from the replays, you're able to just banish it from the graveyard. I believe they had skill drain on board, but yeah. Anyways, next up we got 1-for-1 Raigeki, 1 Day of Peace, 2 copies of Pot of Cupidity, 1 Upstart, 3 copies of Terraforming, 2 copies of Kaiju Slumber, 3 copies of Revolving Switchyard, 2 D-Bear, 2 Storm Strike, and 1 Warning. But as far as extra deck goes, I think this is the most important card, is the number 81 Superior Dora. Definitely do not skimp out on 2 of the Gustav Max. Sometimes making 2 of these is really good. And then we have the Gengar Raidai over here, really good card to burn your opponent. And then we got the Tarantula just to bust out the 7 sins. And then we have 1 Utopic Dragon. I'm sure you could figure out some extra spots, maybe a Slacker Magician for the random times that you need some random cards. Always good to fill up your extra deck with random things, even if you're running, what is that, Reaper, what is that, Ghost Reaper? Reaper, oh, okay, where is it? Ghost Reaper Winter Cherries. Throw in maybe some other stuff for the extra deck so you can destroy your opponent's stuff. But yeah, definitely fill it up. But I just want to give you guys a deck profile as it was shown off in the replays. But obviously you guys can fix it and change it to your liking. If you guys think of any suggestions to improve some of these decks that we just went over via the deck profiles, let me know in the comment section below. But anyways, boys, thanks for watching, guys, and I'm signing out.